Hi everybody!
If you've been following the channel for a while, you'll know Metaphor ReFantazio is one of my most anticipated games this year. I made a predictions video recently and got a lot wrong, but I was going off the logic of Atlus probably wanting to get more eyes on Metaphor and use a surprise announcement or two as a way to drum up hype. But I still want to talk about the showcase and my general thoughts on the game as a whole. So beyond the game being one of the most visually striking titles out there, I really love that Atlus is going away from the standard North American sounding characters. I'm not sure if they hired British, Irish, and Scottish voice actors for the cast or not, but if they did, good job. It's really refreshing to hear those accents in a game. I'm also glad Metaphor has an official release date. I did state in my predictions video that we'd see it either in late September or early October, just ahead of the holiday season push. So what is the official release date? It's October 11th, so really not too long a wait. I'm still unsure if I'll buy the game myself or ask for it as a Christmas present. I just know it's my second most anticipated game this year. My most anticipated is of course The Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak. Anyways, back to Metaphor. I thought it was interesting that after the release date was dropped, director Katsura Hashino stated Metaphor would be a culmination of their RPG work to date. This is both an interesting and curious statement, as it makes me wonder how much Metaphor is going to influence the design choices for Shin Megami Tensei games and Persona games going forward. Because what will Atlus do to keep each game franchise distinct? Atlus have stated before, they plan to make each title a pillar of the company. What do you think Atlus will do to keep each franchise distinctive from each other? Let me know in the comments section. Another thing that really stood out for me was the fact we'll be asked questions about our view on the limits of fantasy and other similar things. This kind of reminds me of Digimon World 1 from the PS1 days, where your choice impacted which starter Digimon you got. I really like this inclusion, and it makes me wonder how differently everyone's stories might play out. JRPGs are known for on-rails storytelling. There's nothing wrong with it, and I absolutely love that aspect of it. I've been toying with the idea of doing a video on why JRPGs wouldn't work with more freedom of choice like a Western RPG. If that interests you, hit the subscribe button. It also seems like Metaphor is going to do hybrid combat correctly, which is a video I've got in the works, though after the showcase, I will need to go back and rewrite that script, as we finally have more details, and it's nice to see it in action finally. I also love that Metaphor is going to start off really hard in the initial area. This is something I found with a lot of modern RPGs. They really hold your hand and treat it like you're wholly new to gaming. I do get it, you have to accommodate for newer players, but skipping tutorials like how to move your character should always be an option. But I really do like the design choice of making combat more difficult early on. It really gives you a sense of accomplishment when you finally do beat an enemy. It's something the Legend of Heroes franchise does exceptionally well. You feel weak at first, but then you slowly become stronger. You really have to make your mechanics service the narrative, something a certain developer who is in my doghouse seems to have forgotten how to do.
And if you want to find out who that developer is, then you might want to click the card that Colin should be popping up right about now in the upper right corner. If you do that, then you get to find out who that developer is, and then you get to come here, and then you get to tell Colin about how his joke is bad, which I do on a daily basis, but he doesn't seem to listen to me because he keeps making these terrible jokes. Am I going to have to make a trip out to Canada?
Next up, the music of the game was discussed a bit. I feel like the reference to the music being inside the main character's head is a callback to Persona 3 to an extent. Why is that? Well, the MC from Persona 3 always had headphones on, leading many fans to come up with the headcanon being the music we hear in that game is the main character hearing it through his headphones. But yeah, that's a cheeky reference there, and I appreciate Atlus incorporating that. If you like subtle references or amazing music in gaming, hit the like button and help this video spread to more JRPG fans, since Metaphor will need all the support it can get. New IPs are just riskier endeavors than a sequel is. Also, while I didn't mention this in my predictions video, the showcase did talk about the open world aspect of the game. They didn't describe it as an open world, but that details would be greatly filled in with wide landscapes and cityscapes. so I kind of called that right when the game was first shown off under its new nomenclature last year. So some parts are going to be more explorable, which should make grinding easier. They also finally acknowledged which art style they were trying to homage. I couldn't quite place my finger on it before. It's going to be a medieval painting style. Yeah, I can definitely see that. It makes me wonder what game engine they're using to power this project. It'll never happen, but I'd love to see what Atlus could do with Sega's Canvas engine, which powers the Valkyria Chronicles games, with 2 exceptions of course. When they were showing off the various facilities throughout the city, there was something that really caught my attention. I always love it when RPGs give you a lot of expression in how you customize your characters, so I love that the equipment you choose for your party actually matters, again, coming down to something I've said a lot, especially in recent videos. It's always better to give your players more options than to take them away, especially when not everyone is going to play the same way. So I could actually see myself having a lot of fun fiddling around with this aspect of the game, since I find a lot of modern RPGs try to simplify things too much, and it just becomes a case of picking the equipment that gives the best stat boost, instead of the trade-off between gains versus added effects onto attacks or defense. Around the 14-minute mark of the showcase, they announced something that has me super excited. They explained how the calendar system works, which is something I'd been curious about, and I imagine a lot of you were as well. However, what really caught my attention was that side quests are going to play a super important role within the narrative. Holy hell, are we getting a game that'll be akin to a Trails-like experience? It certainly seems that way, and I'm all for it, because I love games where you're doing quests gives you lore. I am 100% what you would call a lore whore. Here's a question for you though, how do you feel about job systems in RPGs? Because that's how Metaphor operates. I personally enjoy these types of systems from time to time. I also love that characters aren't going to be limited to just one archetype. I can't wait to dive deeper into that system and see what can be done. I really do love how they're handling the turn-based combat though, since you have to be tactical in the action portion of the gameplay. I also love that both approaches will offer advantages and disadvantages. The game certainly has a smooth flow to it. This next part I want to discuss kind of follows on from the archetypes mentioned earlier. We have an understanding of how social links will work. In this game, they're called followers. As you strengthen those bonds, the followers will unlock new archetypes for the player to explore. This right here is great game design, as it means engaging with the social sim elements really helps you out as you go along. It's like Atlus was actually thinking things out regarding making a fun experience and making the narrative serve the mechanics, unlike Naughty Dog.
Ooh, score 1 for the burn category per Colin. Cause, yeah, Naughty Dog. This is what happens when a developer actually cares about gameplay and it functioning right and it not getting boring after a certain amount of time. This is what happens, people. Okay? When you put story above your gameplay, you get what you put out, Naughty Dog. But when you put gameplay and story on the same level, you get a metaphor. Read the writing on the fucking wall!
The last thing covered before showing off a bit of Gauntlet Runner footage for those who stuck around to the end of the showcase was the physical editions for the game. I'm very tempted by that collector's edition. If you're tempted by the collector's edition as well, why not hit the subscribe button? It's also cool to know this game is to celebrate 30 years of Atlus as a brand. It makes me think they might consider delaying Persona 6 until 2026, so they can celebrate 30 years of Persona. I've covered in a previous video why Persona 6 needs to be a celebration of the Persona brand. So I was already hyped up for Metaphor ReFantazio before this showcase. I'm even more so now. How about you? Where's your hype meter for this game? Thanks go out to my current channel members, R. Campbell and Danny Boy. You can help the channel out further by hitting either the join button or the link in the description. You'll get early access to most of my upcoming videos and exclusive members-only content. Want more of my Atlus videos? Why not check out why you need to support Metaphor? Or you could check out why Persona 6 needs to be a celebration of the franchise to date. Until next time, keep blazing that trail.